And we were talking about the set, and I was talking about the graffiti that I wanted to put on the set. And he was like, oh, you should check out the orange alternative that was happening in Poland back in the 80s. And they kind of had the orange dwarf movement in the graffiti line. But as I looked into the orange alternative more, it was really interesting that they were actually a part of the Orange Revolution, or they kind of joined into the Orange Revolution. So they started knitting this orange scarf in Warsaw that ended up, I think, being like 15 meters long, and it was presented to Yevchenko on the Orange Victory. And then his party was all wearing these orange scarves, and so that kind of became a symbolism for the Orange Revolution. And I really wanted to incorporate that orange scarf somehow, and it was kind of in the back of my head. I thought, oh, maybe I'll do it in a graffiti, or where's that going to come into? So that was just rolling in my head. And then I was in rehearsals, and something that kind of just became really evident was the fact that I didn't have a floor on my design. We didn't have a budget to actually put down a floor. But I love floors in set designs. It really defines the space really nicely and helps bring the world down onto the floor. And make that separation between the audience and the world. I had originally thought, well, I'll do that with lighting, I'll really make some defined lines with the lights. But even when you do that, it's sometimes, without that visual cue on the floor, sometimes the actors will start their lines out of the light, or they'll wander a little bit too far out of the light, and so kind of like half their face is dark. And I was just sitting there watching rehearsals one day, and I'm like, oh, I just really don't want that to happen. I really want them to stay in their light. And I thought, what if I tape the floor? Like, what if we put a tape boundary pattern on the floor to help pull the set onto the floor, but also give these really beautiful lines that the actors, that it would be very clear where their playing field is and where it starts. And then the other kind of practical nature of it was that with the accordion steps, they can be pulled and curved and moved, and they can go as far out as the actors can pull them, and so we needed a way to spike the floor. So what that means normally in theater is you'll put these like tiny little pieces of tape down where you're supposed to, place the set pieces. And the idea is they'll be so small, no one will notice them. And when you're in a proscenium arch where the audience is lower than the stage floor, that's very true. They don't see the floor, so you can put these spike marks on and it doesn't affect the look of the set. But where we were in a black box, the set is on the floor and the audience is on risers, so they're looking down at the floor, so you can really see those spike marks, and I just never really liked the look of those at all. And so part of defining the space on the floor, I also wanted to work those spike marks into a pattern on the floor, and really make that really clear as to where they could pull it out and pull it in, but have it look like it was meant to be there, that it's part of the set, that it's not just an afterthought of like sticking a little tiny thing that you can see. So that was where the floor pattern kind of came from. But what's interesting about that is I was then talking to the director about the graffiti that I was going to put on the set. And she was showing me different symbols in the Ukrainian trident and these things, and I was like, oh, okay. And so what was really cool is that we were able to get the pattern of the floor to look like the Ukrainian trident. And so it held such a beautiful symbolism, and it was also so very practical in where those stairs were going, and those lines that the actors were able to follow, and also help define our playing field and really pull that into the set. So that was just a really cool thing that kind of came from multiple conversations with different people. And then, you know, with the orange tape on the floor, I was like, I want to pull that into the wall. The wall, to me, as always, the way I designed it is I wanted it to be really heavy on the top and kind of come into this point. And the reason for that is I wanted it to be very brooding, and like there's always something really heavy overhead. And so having that orange tape, I wanted to bring it up through the wall as kind of to show, to symbolize like that break, that cut, you know, it's cutting through that dominance, that heaviness, that overhead, you know, that there's hope, that there's hope in this orange revolution. There's hope that in the freedom, you know, and so I brought that orange piece of tape up the wall to kind of cut through that dominance, and as kind of a very hopeful symbol. So that's what you're about to see in this video, is me taping out the floor, the pattern on the floor, the Ukrainian trident, and then also bringing that tape up into the wall. So there you go. That's where the tape came from.